Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Ghoti Yugioh deck profile for post-Phantom Nightmare. The Ghotis were actually a TCG exclusive deck for a good while, all of these phantom-looking type of undersea fish, and we actually got some new cards for the deck in actual form for the main booster set in Phantom Nightmare, 2 new main deck monsters, so I figured it's been a while since I updated the Ghoti deck. They originally got their first support in Power of the Elements, so like I said, it has been a while since that pack. So definitely happy with the new support and some of the other new banished fish support that we got in Phantom Nightmare as well. That works pretty well with the deck's playstyle. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the Ghoti monsters. For the new monsters, I'm running 2 copies of Keef, Merc of the Ghoti. If a fish monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters and one of your banished level 6 or lower fish monsters, banish both that opponent's monster and this card. If you do special summon the targeted monster, and during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card. You can only use each effect of Keef once per turn, but it's a great resource just to special summon out onto the field, but then also a good card just to take out one of your opponent's monsters, as well as giving you some of your other fish resources back as well for that banished target. It only run the 2 though, it's really all we need. Keef isn't a tuner monster, so it's more or less just an engine to use for some of the level adjustment for some of the other fish monsters. I was kind of torn on what I wanted to run for the new one, which is Pisces, the Moonlight of the Ghoti. I have 1 additional Enoch, Sentry of the Ghoti, as a spot for another monster being able to target a banished fish monster with Enoch, but with Pisces, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 fish monster from your deck to your hand, except for Pisces, and then you can banish 1 fish monster from your hand or face on the field. And if this card's banished, you can banish 1 fish monster from your hand or graveyard or face on the field, except for Pisces, giving you more of the banished special summon power for the Ghoti monsters. And also, with this card, you can only use each effect of Pisces once per turn. So you have more of a setup with some of these bigger high-level monsters. But like I said, I only have the 1-ofs in here. If you wanted to, you can try taking out one of the Enochs for another copy of Pisces, but it's player preference there. For some of the bigger numbers for the Ghoti monsters, we're still running the 3 copies of Pace's Light of the Ghoti. You can banish this card you control to special summon 1 fish monster from your hand, except for Pace's Light of the Ghoti. And during the standby phase after this card is banished, you can special summon this banished card. And during your opponent's main phase, if this card is special summoned this turn, you can quick effect immediately after the effect resolves, synchro summon 1 fish monster using this card you control, giving you more of a quick play option with all your other Ghoti monsters, and just a way to get some of those higher level monsters onto the field, or even lower level monsters, because even if we use cards like Keef, Merc of the Ghoti with our Paces, we can get out some of the newer synchro monsters as well, like Fish Lamp onto the field as well, when having this card as a level 4 tuner option. And also 3 copies of Snopios, Shade of the Ghoti. During the main phase quick effect, you can banish 2 fish monsters from your hand and or graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. If it's special summon, you can target a face-up card on the field and banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is banished, you can banish 1 fish monster from your graveyard to add this card to your hand. So having some recycle power to then reuse Snopios, as well as setting up banish plays for some of our other Ghoti monsters that might be in the graveyard after using them for their own banish or synchro plays. And then for some of the lower numbers for the Ghoti monsters, 2 copies of Schiff, Fairy of the Ghoti. You can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 fish monster you control. It gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. And during the main phase, after this card was banished, you can special summon it. And during your opponent's main phase, if it was special summon this turn, quick effect, you can immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon 1 fish synchro monster. So very similar to Paces, but just more of an attack boost instead of an actual special summon like Paces can do. And also the 1 copy of Zep, Ruby of the Ghoti. You can banish this card from your hand to target a fish monster in your graveyard and banish it. So it's more quick-paced banish power with this card. And then having another special summon play and immediate synchro play when summoned back during the next standby phase. I also run the 3 copies of Abyss Shark. If it's used for an Xyz summon or a number monster, which that artifact is irrelevant for this deck, you can have the special summon for this card onto the field as well for your plays, for your summons of your fish monsters. You can special summon this card from your hand and then add 1 level 3, 4, or 5 fish monster from your deck to your hand, except for Abyss Shark. For the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon except for water monsters, so it doesn't lock you into Xyz summon, which is why I like this card. It just gives you a special summon for a high level fish monster on the field for you to use. And for the new Whitefish support, we're running 3 copies of White Sardine. You can send 1 White Sardine from your deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for water monsters. So really not a lockdown at all for this card. And if this card special summoned from the graveyard, you can also treat it as a tuner. So just very versatile for its setup of your fish monsters in the graveyard, just to special summon out White Sardine from your hand. Also running 2 copies of the new White Sunfish. If this card's in your hand, you can target a level 4 lower fish monster in your graveyard with the same card name as a card you control and special summon it. If you do special summon that monster, you can only use this effect of White Sunfish once per turn. And if this card's special summoned from the graveyard, you can once again treat it as a tuner. So this can work with the White Sunfish or any of the other multiple names for the Ghoti monsters we run to summon onto the field and give us a level 4 non-tuner as well, thanks to it. With the last of our fish support being the 1 Deep Sea Coelacanth as just another way to get fish resources onto the field by discarding a card to special summon as many level 4 lower fish monsters as possible from your deck onto the field. Those give us the resources in a wide variety of fish monsters, varying from the white monsters we run to the Ghoti monsters also, for all the different setup for our synchro plays, thanks to this 1 level 7 boss monster. And then lastly, the 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just for the hand trap spot in the deck. Still wanted to run a small hand trap engine, just in case any of the games where you end up going second against your opponents. For the spells, I run 1 copy of the Most Distant Deepest Depths while you control a fish synchro monster. This card cannot be destroyed or banished by card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of the Most Distant Deepest Depths once per turn. You can banish 1 fish monster from your hand or graveyard to add 1 Ghoti monster from your deck to your hand. If a fish monster is normal or special summon while this card is in your graveyard, you can target a fish monster you control, banish it to add this card to your hand. So that's why we only run the 1 copy. It's recyclable from the graveyard and great setup whenever we just do the normal playstyle of what this deck was meant to do, and that is summon a fish monster. For more draw power in the deck, I also run 3 copies of Moray of Avarice, banishing 1 face-up fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster you control to draw 2 cards. You can activate 1 Moray of Avarice per turn, but banishing gives you the setup for your Ghoti monster next turn, as well as 2 cards in your hand for you to use. And we're also running 3 copies of White Reincarnation. When this card is activated, add 1 fish monster with an effect that treats itself as a tuner from your deck to your hand, searching out any of the white monsters that we run for the fish lineup as well. And also, if your white aura monster attacks, you can activate this effect. The attacking monster can make a 2nd attack in a row. We do run some of the white aura monsters in the extra deck, so having sort of a boost for these monsters that also have benefits when banished makes this a definite 3-up for that search. And also 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent for just stopping any of our opponent's hand traps that would limit our own special summons, and also 1 copy of Gold Sarcophagus for faster banish plays, and 1 Call by the Grave to stop any other additional setup of our opponent's hand traps. And then for our traps, 1 copy of Ghoti Fury. You can target a fish monster you control, and 1 monster your opponent controls. Banish both monsters until the end of until your next standby phase. And if a fish monster is special summoned to your field, while any card is banished, you can banish this card from your graveyard or face up spell and trap card zone to have all fish monsters you control gain 100 attack for each currently banished card. So another power boost using this trap as well. In the fact that you can, banish it while it's face up as well, gives you access to that play also. With the last of the traps just being our last hand trap spot, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence to work along with the Ash Blossom to stop any monster effects our opponent may try to activate on the field. Moving on now to the extra deck, we run a good number of synchro monsters in the form of the Ghoti monsters. So 1 copy of Ghoti of the Deep Beyond. The original attack of this card becomes 500 times the number of banished monsters. If it's synchro summoned during your opponent's turn, you can banish all cards on the field. And during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished from the monster zone, you can special summon it. So it's almost like a Topologic Zerberos, being able to banish resources, getting your Ghoti monster onto the field to then use for its own synchro play, depending on your other monsters you have as well. This is a level 10 monster also, so if we have some of our setup like Keef, Merc of the Ghoti, along with some of our other monsters, then we summon out our banished Ghoti monster. We can then go for the level 10 synchro play, summoning out this card. For some of the other lower level ones, 2 copies of our Guoglim, Spear of the Ghoti. At the start of damage step, if it battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster, and during your opponent's standby phase, you can banish this card. Then, if the monsters use a material for this card or in the graveyard, special summon all of them, but banish them when they leave the field, giving you access to other synchro monsters, but also setting up the banished Ghoti monsters to then be summoned back the next turn. and also 2 Arianpos, Serpent of the Ghoti. If it's synchro summon, you can banish level 6 or level fish monster from your deck, extending your Ghoti engine as well thanks to this card. And also being able to, with this card, if it's sent to the graveyard as synchro material, target a fish monster in your graveyard, banish it, then add 1 fish with an equal or lower level from your deck to your hand. And then lastly, for the Ghoti Synchros, 2 copies of Ascan, the Bicorn Ghoti. If it's Synchro Summon, you can target a fish monster you control, and 1 card your opponent controls, banish them. And if this card's banished, you can banish the fish monster from your graveyard to special summon it. So for being a common, it's a pretty good resource just to get back onto the field for a level 8 Ghoti. And also 1 copy of White Aura Monosaurus, 1 White Aura Dolphin, and the 1 White Aura Whale for the white engine we use, along with the White Aura Porpoise for the different fish synchro monsters to go into. And then lastly, the 1 copy of Fish Lamp as a level 4 tuner, with our other monsters being 1 Miss Starboy and 1 Area, the Water Charmer Gentle. If you have the Marine Cess Sea Anemone, you can always replace the Miss Starboy for it. And our last being the 1 copy of Abyss Dweller. We don't go into it often for our lack of level 4s, White Sunfish being the big one, but still, it's possible at times to use this rank 4 Xyz monster. And then as for some of the go-to plays, having the Banish resource for cards like Snopios means we can set up our other Ghoti monsters as well for the summon. So depending on what we banish off of Snopios, we can summon out this card. Having the card in our hand to then use, we can summon out Keith. Using the banish play next turn, getting out our Ghoti monster, relying on our opponent's monsters to then go into the synchro play of our Ghoti monster. If we only had the 1 resource, we can still go into other ones using the banished tuner monster. It all depends on just the levels that you can create on the field to go into. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, glad we were able to update with the new support from Phantom Nightmare. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.